All right, hello everybody, and welcome to week 2 of our school law class. Hope everybody is doing well, survived spring break, and now I'm ready to get back to business here. It looks like for the most part, pretty well caught up on everybody's assignments. I think I have one more assignment to grade that has been submitted so far, but otherwise we're pretty well caught up. So if you haven't been looking at your grades, make sure you double check because I should have them ready to go for you. But let's go ahead and share my screen so we can get into our business here for today and get you the information you need and get you on your way. All right, so one of the things I like to do moving through the weeks is reflect on the previous week. Now, I know there's only 4 people in this particular class, and so I can get more specific with certain types of feedback, but generally I try to look for some generalities for the whole class so you can kind of look and see how am I doing compared with everybody else in as far as what I'm seeing as far as trends go in the class. So one thing that's a huge plus is punctuality. Everybody completed their introductions and their initial posts on time, if not early, which is just spectacular. Hopefully we will see everybody complete their 2 peer responses as well as finish their response to the video snippet that you get to watch on the lemon tests today. And hopefully this will be a great first week where nobody loses points for late submissions and we can just keep on rolling. So great job, everyone. You keep doing your job over there and I'll keep doing mine over here. Zoom meetings. One of the things I requested was for you to please make sure that you click reply after you finish watching the Zoom video and let me know that you received the information. And I haven't checked for today, but the last time I checked, there were no comments from anybody saying that they watched the video, which either means that you watch, which based off of the information I'm seeing from the way that people wrote their assignment, is that people watched the video. They're just not letting me know they watched the video. That makes it a little bit more difficult on my part to tell who's really getting the information, who isn't. So it just takes a second. Just click reply on there and just say, hey, watch the video, whatever. Keep it short and sweet. And just it lets me know that all 4 of you have seen the information and you're moving forward. So please make sure you do that. APA formatting. So discussion posts, this is where I was really worried that people weren't watching the Zoom meetings because I noticed a lot of APA errors with references in the discussion posts. Not as much in the assignments that I've graded so far, which makes me optimistic that we've got some of those things corrected. But I want to just go back real quickly to one of the things I shared from last week because this slide on referencing the book really works really well when you're referencing websites and things like that too. So, but as I mentioned last week, the #1 mistake people make is over-capitalizing their reference titles. And what do we know? That's one of the first things I saw whenever I started reading through your discussion posts, is that people were over-capitalizing and capitalizing all the words or capitalizing the wrong words. And so just as a reminder, when you're looking at the title of a reference, you're only focusing in on capitalizing the first word, any proper nouns, and the first word that follows a colon if a colon is used in the title. Everything else is lowercase. So make sure you remember that, and remember to make sure that you include city and state whenever you're putting in the publisher information. If you're doing websites, remember that if the URL address you are putting into your reference turns into a hyperlink, that means it becomes blue and gets underlined. You need to remove that. You can do that simply by right-clicking that hyperlink and click Remove Link, and it's no big deal. So anyway, just want to touch on that again. Please make sure to watch. If you're losing points for APA, go back and see what you did wrong. If you can't figure it out, shoot me an email and let me know. Okay, so our discussion this week, I fixed it here. I noticed that in the course room for this discussion, it focuses in on a principal named Mrs. Price, but then later in it, it switches the name from Mrs. Price to Mrs. Better. And so I kept it Mrs. Price here on this slide for you to prevent confusion. But this is a really good one. I really like this discussion here, and that should say discussion 1. It says discussion 2. I'm going to fix that real quick, so give me just a second here. I don't like that. I don't want to make that mistake. Moving forward. There we go. Okay. All right. So back to it. So Miss Price is a seasoned high school principal, served as a special ed teacher and assistant principal in a progressive affluent school in the South. She's approached by the parents of a severely disabled 10th grader named John, who's requesting that a full-time nurse be provided to him under the label of related services. And this is done because John has multiple disabilities, which require constant care by a specially trained nurse. Mrs. Price refuses the parents' request due to extraordinary expense and a view that the school is not the most appropriate placement for John. So, you look at John's situation here, and there's a lot of things that John needs, and I can tell you, as someone who works in human resources and hires nurses, that they're not cheap and they're hard to find. So, that is always a concern there too. Also, Mrs. Price is looking at this as, look, this is really not the best sort of placement for him. And so that's the stance that the principal has here. So here are your questions. Is Price's decision defensible? Is the parent's request reasonable under the law? Is the provision of a nurse a related service if it is necessary for John to receive an appropriate education? And how do you think the court would rule in this case? And what are the administrative implications of this case? What would you do if you were the principal? So we've got 3 questions here that really require you to do a little bit of research and talk to some folks and get your stuff together rather than just jumping out there with the response. And then 2 of them are based on your personal opinions. And so these are the things I want you to kind of consider moving into this assignment. And so just like always, your initial post should be at least 200 words. It needs to be APA style. Support from at least 2 academic sources, so please remember that. And just like always, your initial posts are due on Thursday, your 2 peer responses are due on Sunday. Now, last week, you had a very similar sort of discussion post, which also had several questions listed in there. And one of the things I asked was, please, when you write this up, write it up as a narrative. Don't just give me a question and then answer sort of response. I don't want that for these discussion posts. This is a way for you to start working on your narrative writing skills. And I had some of you that did it anyway. So I'm going to cut you a little leeway for discussion number 1, but I don't want to see that moving forward in discussion number 2. So a couple things to kind of help you out. Just some tips here. Write your post as a narrative. Don't answer each question individually. I want you to answer those questions, but I want them blended into your narrative of this discussion post. Because you are talking about some things that I mean, this is very much a real life sort of scenario that pops up probably quite a bit. I want you to utilize the expertise of those around you. Talk to other special ed teachers. They probably have some insight, especially those who deal with severe, profound type special education or special needs students. Talk to your principals. If you've got access, talk to your district special services director, the person that's over all special education in the district. That person is going to have a wealth of knowledge in this for this discussion post. Look to those people. If you have access to a lawyer, ask a lawyer, especially if they specialize in student law. Don't go out and call a lawyer and pay for that. That's unnecessary. But you can also just do some general research. So I can guarantee you that there's probably information about this out there. But don't just try to wing it and try to just answer these questions based off of things you think you know or things you may have seen one time 5 years ago. Remember to integrate your scholarly evidence, which needs to be cited, into your discussion post. Don't just throw some references at the end of your paper that you never cited, or at the end of the paper, at the end of your discussion post that you never cited within your discussion post, okay? I'll be watching for that. This should not be something that's just based on your opinion or what you believe is factual. You need to dig into some research. So that's what these discussion posts are for, to help you develop your writing skill and your researching skills. So keep that in mind moving forward. All right, so now we've got your assignment for this week is kind of like your discussion post in that you've got some questions to answer, but unlike your discussion post, I am going to allow you to do this in a question and answer sort of format. So if you look here, there are a ton of questions, and you're going to answer all of them. And the reason why, and there's no scenario with this, is because by going through and learning about these particular areas of special education, you're going to become better prepared to be able to kind of dig into that world. For those of you that want to be school principals or administrators, I can tell you from experience that special education is probably the single most complicated area you will run into, and it is also probably the single largest area where you run the risk of litigation if you go about it incorrectly. It is something where You know, I always had that concerns for my special education teachers. I've been a part of meetings that became very contentious, very litigious, based off of student need and lack of action by certain administrators. All kinds of scary things can come up from there. So you've got to get familiar with this area. It's something we forget about when we're going through becoming an administrator, but we sure realize it the second that we're in that big chair. So there's a lot of different questions here. You can see some of them are very specific to certain court cases. Some of them are just looking for definitions of terms, things like that. So you can read questions as well as I can. So these are all in the course room for you. So you're going to answer each one of these questions. And here are some things for you to kind of help you along with how to do this essay. So your submission should be 3 to 5 pages in length, and that's excluding your title page and reference page. So yes, this time I would like you to do a title page, and you'll need to do a reference page. It says in the instructions about an abstract, but you don't need to do abstract. Just skip that. You don't need that for the certain assignment, okay? Now, why would you need a reference page? Because every single one of these questions you're going to answer is going to need to have some sort of a cited source attributed to it, because this isn't stuff that you can just rattle off the top of your head. You have to do some research to be able to answer these questions. You're going to have to learn about these court cases. You're going to have to find out the definitions of these terms. So you will have yourself a pretty substantial reference list on this particular assignment. Like I said, you can write this in question answer format. In fact, I would prefer that. You know, if you would write the question in bold and then answer the question in regular font, but like, so you're going to write just straight up, what were the 2 main findings in the Park case, 1971? And do that in bold and then answer the question. And if you do it that way, it makes it easier, I think, for all of us going forward as far as being able to grade this, make sure that you're on the right track of answering everything. Like I said, you're going to be citing sources for every single response, and I'm not looking for single sentence answers. So I know when you look at the type of questions that are like, define the term appropriate education, you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll just look it up on dictionary.com and type that on in there, and I'll be done. 1 sentence, piece of cake, moving on. These are easier. Defining the terms are a little easier than the court cases to do. But I'm not looking for single sentence answers. So even with those define this term sort of questions, I want you to expand on the concept. So tell me a little bit more than simply just the definition, okay? I'm not looking for a thesis for the answer to every single one. In fact, I'm not even looking for a gigantic paragraph. Some of them you will. Some of them may have 2 paragraphs on. But I'm definitely not looking for single sentence. You're in a graduate program. You should be writing like you're in a graduate program. And so with that in mind, I also do not want you to use a dictionary to define these terms. We go back to these terms, and the terms you're defining: related services, least restrictive environment, individualized education plan. These are not things you're going to just find on dictionary.com necessarily. You're going to have to do a little bit of research to be able to find this information. So find the right source for it, define it, and be really, really conscientious too that you are not doing too much of copying directly from your source. You don't want your Turnitin score, which shows what percentage of your paper is coming from another source, to be above 20%, okay? So you may have to take some of these define the terms and kind of rework it into your own words, but make sure you cite your source that you're getting this information from, okay? So not a super difficult assignment, just you have to do a little bit of research. So if I'm in your shoes and I'm looking here and I've got, what, 10, 12, 14, 15 questions to answer, I'm breaking this down. I'm doing maybe about 3 a day, and I'll get this thing done, and it will be a piece of cake, okay? And you can even break it up where, like, oh, I don't know, 1 through 4 look like they're questions that could take a little bit more time. And so I would break it up and say I do 1, 2, and then one of the define the terms, and do it like that. And this assignment should go by pretty fast for you. And so there it is. That's what's going on with week 2. So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. If you wind up having questions this week, as always, make sure you shoot me an email. Let me know what's going on. I'll get back to you right away. I'm going to go wrap this up and go finish grading papers for you. So by the time you watch this, you go in there and go check your grades. Make sure you know that you're on the right track with me. And I will talk to you all again next week. Take care.